I hate to inform you, you have just passed away. Uh,
Oh.
I know, dude. I know. You have gone up to meet your maker, whoever they may be in your mind,
Hmm.
and they have said, Greg, I will answer one question for you about life in general or about anything in your life specifically. What are you
Hmm.
going to ask?
Whoa. That is tough. I do
You are
feel
allowed
like
to ask follow-up questions about it if you'd like.
okay.
You'll also can ask this question now, and over the course of as we speak, if something different arises, also fine. I understand I put a lot of pressure on you by just foisting this. It's kind of why I do it that way, but also
Yeah.
I understand the unfairness of that process.
I mean, oof. Is it I worry this is unoriginal, but I kind of want it feels like the most important question to ask this higher power is just who are you?
Hmm.
What's your deal? Why'd you
Uh-huh.
do all this?
Uh-huh. So I don't think there's any unoriginal answer. I think I love the gamut in which it can run from what was the purpose of all this to in third grade when Kara Caruso ignored me. Was that an
Hmm.
important moment? Was that a thing? Had
Yeah.
she not? So the question of why did you do all this? That's what you'd like the answer to.
Yeah, I guess. I
Hmm.
guess. I
What
feels like
would
I'll start on the macro.
Yeah. What would be, in your mind, what would be a fulfilling answer to that question?
Oh man. I mean there probably is not, right? Like, hmm.
Well, let me propose some. What if the answer is I could? It was merely a thing that I had the parts lying around.
I mean there's like some dark humor to that I find very that to me feels very like the end of Trading Places when you find out that the bet was for $1. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there it just happened because why not? And um but fulfilling, I don't know if I would call that one fulfilling.
Do you believe there
Uh
is an answer that is fulfilling?
Probably not, right? I mean, that it was also, because what's the opposite end of the spectrum from the answer you proposed would be some sort of like, oh, it was all some sort of test of morality among humans or some grand social experiment, which also, I guess, isn't like fulfilling. Did we pass? Did we fail? I mean, I think I know the answer to that.
So
I'm
that would be a
pretty.
follow-up that you would have of, okay, so the answer you're provided is it is a test. It's a simulation of sort that I created in order to test the morality of this particular species that you belong to, humanity.
Mhm.
Um, and so if the answer is did you pass, did you fail, that seems to imply that you have a curiosity about whether or not humanity is doing this correctly. Are we traveling?
I'm just grabbing a charger. I realized I needed
Uh,
to grab. Quick travel, quick
uh,
travel. I don't want my laptop to run out of battery when I'm about to find out. It would be so. That would be a very modern problem. Yeah.
would you say your laptop will run
Sorry
out of
about that.
battery as you're talking about death? Is that what you said?
Yeah, or as I'm finding out the meaning of life from my creator, and like,
Yeah,
oh, come on.
I didn't charge it for this. So, uh, do you? Is that how you view the world? Possibly. I'm not that this is a test of our moral ability.
No, I just was saying, I think that's, I guess, a possible answer. But I guess it doesn't really work if it is, right? Because if I'm talking to some sort of creator and they're saying they created this whole thing as a moral test, but you created the test takers too. I guess that
Hmm.
gets into nature versus nurture, because what's the point of testing things that you created? You either made them to pass or made them to fail.
I will say, well, I mean, I think people often test things that they create. We both do comedy. Essentially, every time you get on stage, you're testing jokes that you've created. If you do stand
True.
up, if you're a writer, you created a thing. And I don't think we ever create anything that we think this is bad.
Oh, okay. Well, speak for yourself.
Arguable.
I guess, yeah, but in that sense, when you're making that test, I feel like the grade comes back on me. So, whereas my implication with the creator was the grade coming back on the people. So I guess maybe if it is a test, maybe the test is, am I able to create a bunch of sentient beings that are good instead of create a bunch that turned out bad?
But
And
doesn't
then
this to some
the human race is just a bad stand-up bit that
you,
bombs
you
at both of
I
us.
lost you for a second. The
Oh,
sound went.
sorry.
Oh, that's there. Um, well, what did you? The human race? What?
Is essentially the equivalent of a bad stand-up bit that got tried at an open mic and failed, and then never to be tried again.
I kind of like that view of humanity. Like, look,
Yeah.
I took a big swing at an open mic.
Oh, yeah.
Bad choice, but hey, at least I know now not to
Every
try
couple years, you're at the god is at a party of
that.
gods, and someone
Yeah.
brings up a close enough topic, and God's like, I used to have, when I did stand up, I used to have a stand up bit kind of about that, but people didn't really. And you tell it at a party, and
Yeah.
maybe it gets a laugh, but you're like, because the laugh is about, like, wasn't this a bad idea for a bit?
Yeah.
Not
Uh,
laughing at the bit itself.
this makes what's interesting about this to me is this makes the creator seem kind of like self-conscious to some degree. Like, hey, did you like this thing that I tried?
Yeah.
Which is it's very funny to me to have like a neurotic creator, like
Oh, yeah.
all powerful, but still kind of I don't know, kind of needs
Yeah.
support, fulfillment.
But isn't that part and parcel of what we think of as like a god complex? Don't If you think of someone having a god complex, don't you think that that's also like just a reflection of insecurity, or
Yes, it's a need of assurance. I don't know why. As soon as anyone says God complex to me, I immediately think Alec Baldwin, and I don't know. I think it's from the movie. There was a movie he was in. He was like, "I am God," something about where he's a surgeon. But I
Oh,
also think like he
Glengarry
exemplifies.
Glen Ross, right?
It's not Glengarry Glen Ross. I don't want to say it's Pacific Heights, but that's not. He's not in
Huh.
Pacific Heights. That's Michael Keaton. Uh, but I feel like when I think God complex, he also kind of exhibits that, like a kind of
There's also there is a 30 Rock where he writes there, where he produces a new show called God Cop, and his character can't find anyone to play God, so he just does it himself. So I'm with you on, there is a
yeah.
God like element to Alec Baldwin.
But also with that does feel like there needs it does feel like on the flip side it comes from a place he needs assurance that he
Mm-hmm.
can behave that way or that he's
Mm-hmm.
justified in behaving that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. To go back to the stand-up thing, it's like your God is trying out this world of like, hey, did you like this? Wanting that validation is funny to me.
Yeah. I kind of would be I would not mind being part of that kind of experiment. Like if that is
Yeah.
the answer you get and you go to your creator and he's like, yeah, I it was kind of a joke. There's something that's more fulfilling to me than purely I could, as we talked about in the first scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just did it because I could. This has a little bit of I attempted
Wait.
joy, that's why I did it. That's like
Yeah, yeah.
um
Hmm.
what if you okay, so it's possible that it was just could happen. I did it on a whim, or I did it to test to see whether I could create something moral. Um, if what when you go to bed at night, if you were forced to think of what the actual reason is, does anything resonate with you?
Well, I mean, there's like the scientific sort of cold evolution, Big Bang, Darwin of it all. But I guess that doesn't really fit into this thought exercise, right? Because I'm talking to someone, and it's not just the ghost of Charles Darwin.
Well, you could be talking to just something, and then I don't know what kind of one-sided conversation it would be that you talk to, I don't know, fission or whatever it is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
began this. But you're right, there is built into this something external. Um, but let's say that this external creator just said, I'm speaking on behalf of science. There was a Big Bang that occurred, and
Hmm.
everything was just a result of that. Is that how you feel? Does that what resonates with you?
No, I don't think so. And it's, which is weird because I guess I don't think of myself as that religious or spiritual.
Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know. Maybe like, man, now we're getting to like heavy philosophical stuff, and I'm into like, damn it, I should have asked if I actually had a shot with Jennifer Medley freshman year. And
That's still an option.
because
I get
yeah,
it. Like,
well, but no, because 5 minutes into that, I'd be like, oh, now I'm talking about my own personal history with women, and this is even more excruciating. Let's go back to me. Let's go back to is there a God? Uh,
so on the scale of things that make you more uncomfortable,
yeah,
the existence of an afterlife is less than how you relate to women over
yeah,
the course of your
less
life. I
than
get that.
14-year-old me having a
Oh,
crush is worse.
just a nightmare.
Hmm.
So
I
you're
don't know.
saying,
I
so,
guess maybe even if there isn't a creator who has uh, challenged us to pass some sort of moral test,
mhm.
even if it's just the Big Bang and evolution brought us here. It, I guess maybe the idea that I gravitate towards is that there's still an implicit test that we're all taking, which is how close can we come to being the best version of this. Does that make any sense?
It
Like,
makes total sense, but that implies that you think that there is some sort of best version, or
hmm
like best version above us, meaning we're all striving towards the same best version. Is that what you're saying?
I guess, yeah, the best version of collective humanity, of life on Earth.
Is that what you hope, or is that what you observe?
Uh, hmm. Well, I guess I'm saying that the test is implicit. I'm not even saying that we're passing or failing or
Hmm.
trying, even trying necessarily. I definitely don't observe us knocking that test out of the park. I'll say
Hmm.
that.
Meaning it doesn't seem like we're all striving as a species to be the best species that we possibly
No.
can be.
Well, I guess, people have different ideas of that because to
Yeah.
some people, the test is how far can we, having a fucking hundreds of thousands of slave laborers building a rocket ship and they all get crushed by the boosters when it takes off, but it makes it to Mars and we did it,
Yeah.
whereas other people would be like, well, no, we don't have to go to Mars, but maybe everyone gets a meal today. I feel
Hmm.
like I'm sure a lot of people would have very different barometers for what passing that test looked like, which I guess makes it a problematic concept, but
Well, isn't that kind of what we deal with in politics all the time? Is this
all the
we seem
time.
to have this underlying idea of what best means, and that's not
Hmm.
necessarily discussed. It's implied that the best is, depending on where you lean, of whether or not freedoms have been a priority, or it's best whether or not the bulk of humanity has been cared for. But it's as we have two very different base definitions of best, at
Mm.
minimum two, and it's just constantly butting heads about that. But it's as if those ideas aren't going to change. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the
Um,
crux of it, I guess. And then people floating between those two ideas of like, well, if X% of people aren't cared for, but we do have X% of progress, is that the right trade off, you know?
yeah. Um, it makes it adds more to the God made a joke, or this is a premise for a stand-up joke of like, okay, I'm going to
Mm.
create these people. They're basically gonna I'm gonna make two types. They're gonna have two different types of belief systems, and they're
Yeah.
immutable. They can't. They don't even know it though. Here's the deal. They act all the time as if they don't understand that that belief that they have is immutable. And I'm just gonna
Yeah.
see what happens with those two. We're gonna force them to
Yeah.
live together, and
Yeah, it is. It's it's essentially in that version God being like, I'm gonna try out an odd couple one.
yeah. Let me pitch this.
I mean, this concept of the odd couple has been ringing true to me. And so we'll have two opposite types of people try to coexist.
Yeah.
We'll have Felixes. And we'll have what Oscars? I don't know enough about the odd couple. Oscar and
But
Felix?
yeah, essentially, so all this was it was just a pitch for a TV show
Yeah,
that he was
yeah.
going with. Real simple opposites. Just it sounds like the most basic. Like this is his first premise that he's come
Well,
up with.
but he's like, oh God, I wanted to do that odd couple humanity, but all they want me to do is about a human race that has to move back in with its creators, back in its home town.
It's all that people are buying now. It's all that God exists.
It's
What?
every fucking humanity
Yeah.
is just about a race of people who have to move back in with their gods.
um, I want to bring you back to so you're saying so it is it's you ask the creator and the creator says merely yes, here's what happened, there was a big bang, everything exploded, and now the only all that's happening is there's this chemical, your genes, whatever, this molecule of genes, it lives only to reproduce. Humans
Hmm.
are just a vehicle for which these chemicals can reproduce. That's it. So was that a satisfying answer to why you exist?
No, that's what I'm saying. Well, here's the headspace I'm in right now is that I
Hmm.
think I was right to have the instinct that there's not going to be a satisfying answer. But
Uh,
the nice flip side of that coin is maybe there also isn't an answer. Even the trading places bet just did it because they could. Maybe there isn't an answer that is like infuriating to me either.
uh, so even though there is zero purpose to this, that mere accident is not
Mm,
infuriating to you.
not infuriating, no. I mean, not fulfilling either, but there's pluses and minuses to it. I guess in that version, it takes the some of the pressure off. I guess
Hmm.
like I guess yeah, the catch 22 of like the if you found out today that your life had no meaning, it
I
would be.
found that out years ago,
Oh
Greg.
yeah,
I
sorry, I'm
don't.
sorry, sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
Was it on stage during an improv show?
there's six people in the audience. I'm, just giving my all. Nobody's reacting. I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh,
this is pointless.
this is just a bunch of carbon in different shapes. uh,
It was just a
and this
defense
carbon,
mechanism I had to come up with. That's
yeah.
it. That's all it
No,
was.
I didn't have a bad set. Life is meaningless. That's what happened. Uh,
that's that's brilliant. Um,
but if it, in finding that out, there's something inherently freeing about it, right?
I think there is something freeing to that, but the problem is, how do you still maintain an existence in which you're one, a decent human being, two, and this I come back to this all the time. How do you still get up in the morning? Why don't I just drink myself to death? Why don't like how do you if there literally is no purpose, then
Hmm.
it that requires a purpose creation that you do for yourself. Yes, we
Yeah.
internally create purpose, but we also know that we made that lie up. right? So we're like, my purpose is whatever it is. So you have to every day lie to yourself in order to keep going. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm correct. At least that's what I struggle with personally, and that's part of why I
But
do this.
I I couldn't be more. That couldn't have connected more to me because I'll tell you, I mean, you and I have talked about this. Like, I kind of, speaking of why don't I get up and drink myself to death, is like
Mm,
I'll swing back and forth on the pendulum of
mhm,
drinking and sobriety, and and it's something that I struggle with sometimes.
yeah.
And for like the first few months of this year, I was not drinking at
Mhm,
all, and it really, like, every time I go through that phase, I mean, I have obviously like a lot of extreme privilege that goes into it, in that I can be a high functioning alcoholic. There's a lot of people who are struggling to get by for so many variety of reasons that they don't have
yeah.
that option.
Mhm,
uh, but it does sort of remind me, like, I'm not gonna even. It's just for me. Like, at
mhm,
the end of the day, I have to make up I have to create the reason, like, this is why I need to stay sober. I'm
yeah.
ultimately, and not that people don't care about me, they absolutely do, but
Mhm,
like, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to be affected by it, and like, the one that like I need to be performing at my best for myself, or there's no other reason. And so, like, this year, I was like, I guess I didn't start this like right at New Year's, but a few weeks later, because I think I was in a place of like, well, I'm not drinking, but I'm doing every other fucking bad habit. Like,
uh,
I'm not drinking, but I've gambled on sports every single day.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like, I'm just filling it with other things, and like, this is real psychopath shit, Brandon. I started to like have like a point system for myself.
Uh,
Where I was like, you know, uh, like, doing good things earned me points, whether it
yeah.
was like eating a healthy meal, exercising, getting work done, finishing a script was a ton of points, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and like, bad habits cost me points. Like, if I wanted to
Mhm,
buy a pack of cigarettes, that was minus 15, or so. And I was like, if I ever get to this big lofty number of
uh-huh.
points, then I'll have, a weekend where I can cut loose and drink a little bit or whatever. And
Yeah,
so, and I was doing this, and I had like a note in my phone, and I
uh-huh.
became very like attached to this note where I was keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
And but the whole time I'm fully aware, like, I made this up. This is not real. This is a thing
I
that's my
love it.
own creation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
I love
worked. Like,
Yeah,
I
it
was
feels
very
like
productive
a Weight Watchers approach to Vice,
to
which
everything.
I
Yeah.
which I think eh, so do you find it successful?
I did, yeah, and I'll be like, I've recently, I recently got to the point where I was like, okay, I made enough points, and I had like a nice, like, we were walking outside with the dog, my girlfriend and I, and
Uh,
like, a couple patios were open. It's like, let's go have a drink and some guacamole
yeah,
and sit outside with the dog and watch people come pet him and be
yeah.
happy. And like, and then the next morning, at which point I'm not disgustingly hungover, but hungover for the first time in months.
Yeah.
I found out that I did not get a writing job that had been promised to me for several months. And it was just like, the timing of like devastating bad news when my body was like physically hungover for the first time in so long was,
Yeah.
there was something blackly comedic about it. But and then, so I feel like in the couple weeks since then, basically every morning I'm like, I got to get back on that point system. But the flip side of that rug has been pulled out, where I'm on the other side going, that's fucking made up. I made that shit up.
Uh, but I think that's what I really what I've so many questions. First of all, how did you figure out how to equate like what is a drink for points and what is like you donate money to an earthquake like in Haiti?
It was like trial and error, because the free market of my vices eventually set the price because like I'll tell you, because here's how it was. It was like at first I was like, oh man, I'm like in that time where I said I was like not drinking but doing a bunch of other bullshit. It's like I'm not being productive. I'm sitting around like playing Madden and shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I go a whole day without like turning on the PlayStation, that'll be 10 points. And I scored that every day for the first like 8 days. And I was like, well, clearly that's too many. Like that's
Yeah.
those points are too easy. Whereas if it was like, you know, if I run a mile on the elliptical, that's 1 point. And I was never doing that. And I was like, well, that
Mhm.
better be 3 points. You know, it was that kind of thing where like things were
Yeah.
getting adjusted on the fly. If I was
Uh,
earning one too often, and then after a week, I was like, I don't even want to play Madden anymore, and I just took that shit right off the list. But
uh,
then, like, the longer I went without doing a thing that I had put on the point system, I was like, well, this needs to be more points, I guess, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
And then, like, you know, like you said, like donating or volunteering, like, I had like volunteering on there as kind of a theoretical concept, but my girlfriend is such a like amazing person, has been doing all this work with like mutual aid and stuff, and I've fallen into doing that alongside her. And when I was doing that, I was like, oh yeah, this feels like it was worth 30 points or whatever, you know,
Uh,
like
yeah.
if I do this every day, I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm just earning cheap points. Like maybe I am, but fucking I'd be volunteering every day. Like that is what, if I volunteer every day for a month, yeah, I can have a drink. That feels fair.
Uh, I used to do a thing where I would run 5 miles every day as the base, and if I smoked the night before, every cigarette was an extra mile. So
Ah, I love it. I
there
love it.
there used to be some like if I would go out on Friday, there's some Saturdays like I had to run fucking 15 miles today because I
Yeah.
smoked a half a pack of cigarettes.
Oof.
And I did it
And it
for
makes the running harder, I would
so much
imagine.
harder. And I did it for a while, and then I stopped. I think after I was like, nah, there's my body. I want to smoke more than I can run. So it
Yeah.
basically, my body just. Um, what I love about this is a grand thing is so you've created meaning essentially
Mm-hmm.
where there is you admit these points are meaningless. This is all for you, right? You
Mm-hmm.
choose to do this because you feel better at the end of the day, I'd assume, when you're not acting solely out of
Yeah.
vice.
Well, not at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I still want to drink. The next morning, I feel better about the
Yeah.
previous day. You know what I
Is
mean?
that yes. I feel this way about when I drink. My favorite part about when I drink is the day after I drank. Does that make sense? When it's like if I
Yes.
drank on a Thursday, like I hate all of Friday, but Saturday morning is great
Woo!
because you
Yeah.
feel great, and also I've forgotten what it was like, and then I'm like, I'll drink Saturday night. It's like this awful cycle
God,
of
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was literally exactly what I think. I drank on a Friday, and then
mm,
Saturday I felt like shit, and I got that bad news and everything. And then Sunday I was like, I feel fine today. And it's that second morning feeling
yeah,
is because the day after you're like, oh, I'm gonna be hungover forever. This is how I feel now,
yeah,
and this is just what life is. And then the next day you're like, oh, I feel great. Have a cup of
yeah,
coffee. I'm firing on all fucking cylinders. Let's
yeah.
get drunk. Yeah, I know
In some
exactly what
ways, it makes me realize what people that what faith is like for people. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
Mm,
you're entering the same. There, all logic says you're incorrect, but you still believe it. I still believe that if I'm gonna
yeah,
like, I haven't drank in a couple of days, so I'm sure the next time I won't be hungover.
yeah.
It's
It's
never the case.
some athlete whose fucking team has gone 0-15 and then prayed to God and thanks God after that win. Like, hell yeah. It's like, well, you prayed before the other 15
Yeah,
games.
it's not like you just remembered this time. Um,
Yeah.
So I like expanding that idea into a grant. So let's say that is how you view your life, and at the end you go to meet this creator. Do you think if you have more positive, if you still have some points left, you've done a good job? Or do you want that table to be empty? Do you want to clear the table before
You
on your
can't
way out
take,
the door?
that's what the phrase "you can't take them with you" is about.
Yeah.
Was about my weird point system.
You're just on your deathbed, just
I
betting
don't
on the
know.
bulls and smoking Camel non-filters.
Well, I guess I feel like well, the way I've tried to angle this point system is so that it's the house always wins, essentially. The house, because while many of the point earning behaviors are things that are just related to me, some of them aren't. Some of them are things
Mhm.
that are, better for the greater good.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think any of the ways I'm cashing in points are bad for the greater good. It's
Uh-huh.
like they're all just like, I get to have a drink, or like, I get to just relax and fucking do nothing all.
None of them are like punch a sparrow. There's no like
Yeah, none of
weird.
them are like, well, I'm gonna scream at my girlfriend tonight. Like, I'm gonna,
I built up enough points. I can do it.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
I finished 3 features this month, so I get to vote for Donald Trump. I get to donate $300 to the Trump 2024 campaign. Ah, I wish I hadn't used the points on that. I could really use it. I could
You were
really
so
use a
happy at the
fucking
time.
some dominoes would be great, but I spent it on Trump.
I think you're sitting on a gold mine here. I think you got to codify this system, get it
I
out there, and set up this sort of. It's a very pragmatic way for people who I don't understand. People who have no vices. I don't get how people go through the world. They're just like, I don't know. I just feel I'm pretty good. I don't want to. Or whatever their vice is so minimal, like I don't know, I'm kind of like chocolate. It's like crazy how much
Yeah.
I
Oh
like
my
chocolate.
god.
I'm like,
I'll never forget this fucking girl who was in my freshman dorm, and she was like a model maybe, but she immediately lost the friendship of every other female in this dorm because she had told them all, our friends told us, that she said her guilty pleasure was low fat wheat. And I'm sure, and not just I'm not even to say it's a thing of women, because Lord knows, obviously, I think about my weight a lot. And if I had heard that, I'd be like, fuck you.
can you read the room? Can you read the
Yeah.
room? This is not. Um,
If I ate a box of low fat wheat thins, I would be earning points.
I think you got to re-examine the point system
Yeah,
then.
maybe.
So, I have good news for you. You have not passed on. You are still here. So you do not have to face this question of um, what you would want to know from your creator. But as you've thought about this over this, is there anything that sticks out to you? Is it what happened with Jen when you were 14? Is that still something that weighs on you?
Yeah, I guess it's too late for me to get a quick answer about that.
I guess you could on the way out the door from be like, hey, one more thing.
Yeah, on the way.
Whoa,
Wait,
what's going
did
on?
she, was if I had asked her out, would she have said yes?
Yeah, I love those. It shows everyone that I've talked to has some moments like that. These very small things that continue 30 years past that they still think about. And I find that fascinating that it's as if we believe um, had we made just a slightly different choice, our life would be different, but also um, were we brave at one point, perhaps our whole life would have been different. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's been a lot written in that sort of genre over the, what is it, sliding doors, or the
We
butterfly
bought a
effect.
zoo.
Yeah, is that what We Bought a Zoo is
I
about?
think I remember a line from that about We Bought
Damn
a
it.
Zoo.
If I
Yeah.
had bought that zoo, my whole life would have been different. I would have owned a zoo.
I would own a zoo. It would have been, that's all that was missing. There
Well,
definitely
this
has been a
is.
lot that's, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I
No,
was
there's
gonna
definitely
say,
been a lot written about that, but it does
yeah.
feel like I think that's
One
an
of
interesting thing about the universality of humanity that we all have these moments.
And what I like about this exercise, I do often fantasize. One of my biggest fantasies about any kind of afterlife is getting, and I think maybe it's why the point system or things like that work for me, is because I'm like I'm like a fantasy sports nerd. I like to like codify things
Hmm.
and have stats. So one of my big fantasies is like life stats. Is that life ends and God gives you your stats, and you could see Well, Brandon, do you want to see every cigarette you smoked in your life in a big pile? You know, or like everything you drank in your life in one giant reservoir? Or like, I always thought, and then you get into like advanced stats like they have in baseball or something, and it's like, what's your masturbation to prayer ratio? Like, how many times did you masturbate
Uh,
divided by how many times you prayed in your life? Stuff
I
like
will.
that.
First, who's tracking these stats? That poor human, that poor statistician
Yes.
who's up
Oh
there just like,
God.
Greg,
Yeah.
you're disgusting. Please pray for just a minute so I can
Just
offset
Jonah Hill and Moneyball just hunched over
it.
watching your life through a closed circuit
uh,
TV and just reeling.
uh, the idea of seeing every cigarette I've smoked, or like compared to, I don't know what the opposite end, like every
Apple.
dressingless salad I consume.
Yeah.
But I have thought that about cigarettes is just tell me what's the last one I can smoke and I won't have that one. There's got to be one that won't kill me, right? So just give me,
Yes.
how do I get up
The
to the wall?
tipping
All I'm trying to
point.
do is get to the wall, and I think we're all trying to do that, right? Let me have the
Yeah.
worst behavior I can until it so that doesn't kill me.
It does feel like I don't know if SAG is like this, the way the WGA, or I guess it's how your taxes work too.
Mhm.
Was just like, well, you just how much I owe you. Just you tell me. I don't make me do the work, and then
Yeah,
just so that you can be like, that's wrong. Just fucking tell us. Just
yeah,
tell me which cigarette is one too far, and I'll stop
yeah.
it.
Because they're not they clearly. I know it's varies from human to human, but is 10 a week too many? Clearly, there's plenty of people who do this. You got to just stop this all or nothing bullshit. Stop it. Nobody's
Yeah,
buying this. Um,
nobody.
so what is the does currently the thing of if Jen were to have said yes, or if you were to ask her out, does that is that what sticks with you from this more than the idea of God telling you something and or whatever, the creator telling you something and it's not a satisfying answer?
Hmm. So you're saying, would I have rather, since I inherently couldn't get the satisfying answer about the universe, would I have rather just asked about Jennifer?
Yeah, now that you get to do a little bit of examination of the choice that you made.
Not really, because here's the thing: there's no satisfying answer about Jennifer either. If the answer is yes, oh, that sucks. If the answer is no, oh, that
Oh, I think the answer
sucks.
is no. I think that's satisfying, isn't it? It's like, oh, good, all right, great.
I don't
I don't
know,
have any regrets
maybe.
about that.
Uh, yeah, but then I've been robbed even of the fantasy that I could have made a difference. Like I can't even say like, ah, oh, if I'd have just done that, life would have been like, no. It's like, what if like I feel like with our like older generations, it's like, oh, I knew a guy and I could have invested in Apple in
Yeah,
19,
yeah,
whatever. And it's like my whole life would have been different. What if you meet your fucking Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life? And he's like,
yeah,
nah, you would have fucked that up too. And your whole
yeah, yeah.
family would have hated you and you wouldn't have even really enjoyed them. Like, I don't know.
So what you're essentially saying is the answer takes away hope, right? And that you don't
Yeah.
want your hope taken away, and that's why asking your creator and getting an answer that's unsatisfying also gets rid of hope. And how do we behave when it's very hard to live when there is no hope?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. And then I'm also maybe says something about me because I'm sure there are other people alive who would be like, either answer is great. Either like, oh, hey, she did like me, or like, whoops, we played that one safe. And
Uh,
it's like, but I'm the type of person who both are bad.
I don't know many people who I guess it could talk about the people we spend time with. I don't know many people who'd be like, I'm fine with either way, because I don't trust that human being. That's the
Yeah,
kind of
no,
person
me
who tells you
neither.
that their biggest vice is low-fat wheat thins.
Wheat thins, yeah.
Yeah. Greg, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you
fun.
so much. I will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Brandon.